We're going to tackle one of the oldest dilemmas out there, the choice between a small, sure thing right now and that tempting promise of something much bigger down the road. It's a challenge every single one of us faces, and believe it or not, an ancient story holds a surprisingly relevant key to figuring it all out.
So let's just put it out there. What's it going to be? A sure thing, right now, or a gamble for something more? Just take a second and think about which way you naturally lean. Your answer honestly can reveal a ton about how you approach risk and value and opportunity in your life.
And that whole idea of a gamble, right? That potential for more. Well, that leads us right into our first section, the tempting promise. This is all about that powerful, universal pull we feel towards sacrificing a certain benefit for a potential and often much larger one. I mean, think about it. This pops up everywhere, doesn't it? In your career, your relationships, your finances. It's the small, guaranteed win versus the lottery ticket. But this isn't some new problem. It's a fundamental part of being human, rooted in our brain's constant tug of war between wanting security and chasing the thrill of the unknown. So how do we even start to navigate this? Well, we're going to turn to some seriously ancient wisdom. We're diving into one of Aesop's fables that gives us a powerful, really practical lesson on how to handle this exact situation. So picture this. The story kicks off with a scene of real scarcity, of genuine need. You've got a fisherman, and his entire livelihood depends on his catch. He's had a terrible day. He's caught absolutely nothing. And then finally, he gets a bite. But it's just one single tiny fish. Now for him, this isn't just a small catch. This is the difference between eating and going hungry. So just as the fisherman is about to finally secure something for the day, the little fish, it speaks. And boy, does it make a tempting offer. It plays directly on the fisherman's desire for more. It's a promise of a future reward, a much better meal, but only if he lets go of the small, certain one he already has in his hands. But here's the thing, the fisherman is wise. He's not swayed by this, not for a second. He immediately sees the flaw in the fish's logic. He understands that a small, guaranteed meal today is infinitely more valuable than the possibility of a larger one tomorrow. At the end of the day, a promise is not a possession. You see, what the fisherman did there, it perfectly illustrates this timeless piece of wisdom, which brings us right to our next section, a bird in the hand. This is where we really boil down the core lesson of the fable. Now, you've probably heard this saying a million times, right? But this story, this fable, it really brings it to life. It means that what you actually have, the tangible, the real, the secure, is so much more valuable than what you might get. Those two in the bush, they're just a possibility, pure speculation. And this, right here, just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got what the fisherman chose, secure, immediate, foundational. It's a definite something. On the other side is the fish's offer, speculative, deferred, risky. It's a total gamble for everything that could so easily leave you with nothing. This is where a little mental trap called optimism bias loves to kick in. We tend to overestimate our chances of getting everything and totally underestimate the risk of ending up with nothing at all. Okay, so an ancient story about a fisherman. Big deal, right? Why does this actually matter to you today? Well, let's move on and see how this very fable plays out in your own life right now. Let's bring this home with a personal example. Imagine someone gets a modest inheritance. That's their little fish. It's something tangible, enough to provide real stability. But they get tempted by the promise of that much better meal, a high-risk startup. They gamble the certain gain, and like so many who make that choice, they risk losing the whole thing. And believe it or not, this same dynamic plays out in our relationships all the time. Imagine a friend offers you a genuine, heartfelt apology. That's a certain gain. It's a repaired connection. But if you reject it, if you demand some grander gesture that may never come, you risk throwing back that little fish and ending up with nothing but a broken friendship. And in the professional world, oh man, this happens constantly. A company gets a solid, guaranteed buyout offer. It's the bird in the hand. But then greed takes over. They decide to hold out for a speculative, much larger offer that might materialize, or, as often happens when markets shift, it might just vanish completely, leaving them with a devalued company and a whole lot of regret. So, what all these examples really highlight are some super common mental traps we all fall into. We underestimate future risks. That's our old friend optimism bias again. We let the powerful allure of a huge win completely override our rational thinking. And so often, we fail to value the safety of a sure thing, treating it like it's disposable just because it's small, always chasing that bigger, better deal that is often just a mirage.
Okay, so how do we actually avoid these traps? How do we get a little more of that fisherman's wisdom in our own lives? Well, that brings us to our final section, choosing your catch. This is all about making a conscious, deliberate choice.
So, how do we start thinking more like the fisherman? Well, it can actually start with a few simple commitments, almost like a mental checklist you can run through before making a big decision. I choose certainty over speculation. I am grateful for what I have right now. I reject the lure of a future prize if it means losing what's already mine. And I know deep down that something is always, always better than nothing at all.
And that really brings us to the final question, the one I want you to take with you today. What small, certain, valuable thing is in your hands right now? It could be a project, a relationship, an opportunity. Are you really valuing it? Or are you tempted to throw it back, hoping for a bigger catch that may never, ever come? The choice, as the fisherman showed us, is yours.